It has happened, people. This video is sponsored by Shortboxed, the easiest way to buy and sell graded comic books. Download the app today using the link in the description. This last week has been a flurry of activity. I managed to sell 3 big money comics via my website, regiecollects.com, which of course puts me a lot closer to my goal of getting Hulk issue number 1. Now, what's interesting is that the first of these 3 books have been posted to my website for about 2 months with zero interest. There were no nibbles, there were no messages about this book, but all of a sudden it sold. And I was pleased to bundle this book up and send it off to its new owner. And 2 days after I sold that book, I actually released a CGC unboxing video in which I showed 2 additional copies of the exact same book. And there are folks out there that watch all of the content and know exactly what book I'm talking about. It is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic issue number 9. And within a few days of that video coming out, I managed to sell 2 additional copies. So all 3 sold in about a week's time. Each one of the books was sold for $1,100, which brought in a total of $3,300, which brings my grand total to $12,307. So we are definitely headed in the right direction of being able to pull together all the money that is necessary for Hulk 1. Now, what's really great about these books that I sold is that I priced them, I think, at a fair price based upon what the market was actually doing. So there was a little bit of some value in there for the people that bought the book, and there was definitely some value in it for me because I was able to make a nice chunk of money because each one of these copies actually came out of the 100K collection. So even if you strip away the cost for shipping, cleaning, pressing, grading, all that kind of stuff, my profit margin was pretty heavy. So I am definitely pleased about that. And at least one of the people that purchased the book told me that this was their grail comic. So it was nice to be able to offer these books up to people that really enjoy them. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, but there are a lot of people that absolutely love Star Wars. And this is a high dollar book that is not necessarily easy to get your hands on in high grade if you happen to be working on a run. So it was nice to be able to hook people up with that. So let's see what happens next. Fingers crossed that we can continue to make some progress towards Hulk number 1. We have Garage Con coming up here relatively soon. And so if I'm not able to sell some more books via the website or offline deals, there's always Garage Con where hopefully I can make enough revenue to be able to afford this book. All right, so it is a little after 10 o'clock. And a short while ago, I received a message from a subscriber by the name of Ryan M. And Ryan's message to me sounds like this. It says, "Hey, bud, big fan of yours and love your podcast and YouTube channel. Not sure if you completed your mission yet of Hulk 1, but I saw that a comic shop has a 2.0 for sale." I read Ryan's message and I immediately went to the page on Instagram of that comic shop to confirm that they have the book. I actually am very familiar with this comic shop, so I kind of knew their page. And so I went there, confirmed that they have it. I've already sent them a message trying to inquire as to the price because there was no price mentioned in the photo that was shown. This comic shop is actually located in California, so I do not expect them to get back to me anytime soon because, like I said, it's like 10 o'clock here, and I don't think that they open up all that early. So we will wait and hopefully get a response back a little bit later today on the cost because I'd like to know that. I'd like to know how much they are asking for this book, so we will see what they say. So sure enough, it has taken the shop a couple of hours to get back to me, 3.5 to be exact. But like I said, they are located in California, so this is to be expected. The guy that responded basically says that he believes the price is X, but isn't quite sure and wants to check. And my response was, can you please check? Because the price that he cited is expensive. It is way more money than I want to pay. So we will see what he says, and fingers crossed that it won't be too long before we get a response. And I can start to wrap my mind around whether this magic is going to get made or not. So another 2 hours have passed, and I will tell you that I'm actually not frustrated by this situation at all. The guys have been pretty transparent about what's happening. Come to find out, they are actually at a con today. So they're busy at the con and then also responding to me and probably talking to people at the shop because I'm asking some questions. But one of the last things that they said to me in their previous message was, let me know what you're thinking. And my response back to them was that I'm thinking about maybe taking a step back from the book because I actually looked up the value in a pricing guide and they are priced well above what I think that the book should be priced at based upon the data that I'm actually seeing. And they cited for me in this most recent message that they priced it that way because there was a 3.0 that actually sold recently for a healthy amount of money. So they adjusted their price based upon that. And my response back to them, of course, was, well, here's the data that I'm actually seeing in my pricing guide. And based upon what I'm seeing, I think that, this might be a better number than the number that you mentioned to me a few moments ago. And I think, again, they're using a slightly different pricing guide than I am. So I think that that's part of the reason why there's this maybe a little bit of a discrepancy in some of the numbers. But I also mentioned to them that I'm seeking this book not because I'm trying to flip it, but because I want it for my personal collection. And I'm also trying to close out a video series, right? This video series with me actually reaching this goal of getting Hulk issue number 1. So I offered this up. I'm always as transparent as I can be with people about, why I'm offering what I'm offering based upon the data and who I am and what I'm trying to do. I try to be transparent with people so that they can make an informed decision. At the end of the day, to me, that's like the best thing that you can possibly do is be honest, be transparent, and let people make a decision based upon that transparency. So they confirmed for me that they are indeed using a different pricing guide than me, which is part of the reason why there's a little bit of a delta here. And my last thought was, hey, let's see if we can make some magic, right? Here's my number. You stated your number. Let me know whether there's some wiggle room here. And if so, then maybe we can actually make some things happen. So the last response from them was, we will figure something out. And it was an exclamation mark at the end. So I'm kind of hopeful. I'm kind of hopeful that maybe we will make some magic today. I did it. You are looking at the proud owner of Hulk issue number 1. I made some magic happen and I could not be more excited. I cannot wait for this book to show up. I cannot wait, but I want to give a huge shout out to A1 Comics in Sacramento and specifically to Avery. It is after 6 o'clock right now, and we have literally been talking off and on all day trying to arrive at some kind of deal for this book. And I appreciate them being willing to negotiate with me on this. I stated a price and some data. They stated a price and some data, and we had a back and forth. And we ultimately arrived at a number and then adjusted it just a little bit more to kind of meet in the middle. And we made the magic happen. And so I am pumped. I am pumped to get this book in my hands. And so they're going to be shipping it out to me on Monday. Fingers crossed that it arrives by like Wednesday. And then we're going to do an unboxing. We're going to unbox this thing. Hopefully the next thing you'll see will be me grinning as I open up this box from A1 Comics. Today is a big day, and it is a big day because Hulk issue number 1 just showed up here at the house. And what's crazy is that I was on a conference call when it showed up with my entire leadership team as I was trying to sign for this package that was sent to me via FedEx. So you have to love video conferencing and working from home. But nevertheless, the box is here and we are going to open it up right now. So I am down to the final layer of packaging that separates me from Incredible Hulk issue number 1, and it is actually transparent so I can see right through it. This is a big day. It's funny that they actually put it in a purple bag. I'm not sure if that was purposeful or accidental, but here it is. Here it is. This is, ooh, this is nice. This is Incredible Hulk issue number 1. And this is awesome. This is awesome. I have waited such a long time to hold this book in my hands. I have waited, and to be honest with you, this is literally the first time that I'm really truly seeing this book. I actually purchased it from a single photo that was shown on the A1 website. So I never actually got actual photos of the book. I mean, it's a reputable shop, so I didn't have any concerns there. Otherwise, I would have definitely requested lots of photos, but this is a legit comic shop, so no big deal there. But it is a nice copy. It is indeed a nice copy that presents a little bit better than a 2.0, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's as high as maybe what they said, but it's not bad. And part of the reason why, as I show you the book for the first time, as I show you the book for the very first time, part of the reason why this book has a 2.0 is because it actually has a detached cover. Now, that is generally something that I am not into in any way, shape, or form, but occasionally you have to make some concessions, and this is a hard book to get a hold of, and so for me, it was somewhat of an easy decision to make because, again, the options are not plentiful when it comes to this book, so I'm actually going to be fine with a detached cover for this, especially at a 2.0, especially with how the book actually presents. You have some creasing down here on the lower side. You definitely have some things going on this side and across the top, but there's actually no Marvel chipping, which is sort of unusual for some of these books like Hulk 1 and also AF-15. Those books are notorious, and even X-Men issue number 1, notorious for Marvel tripping down this side, but that does not seem to be the case on this copy, which is really, really nice. Thankfully, it's not a married copy because that would be even worse, but the cover is definitely detached. You can see it looks like it only has one staple. I only see one staple, maybe two, definitely one for certain. But again, it's not unusual to have a book of this age only have one staple. All kinds of stuff happened in those early days, but such an amazing feeling to finally be holding this book in my possession. I definitely want to thank A1 for being willing to work with me on this book to be able to add it to my collection. And I definitely want to thank all of you out there for being part of this journey. This has been something that I've been doing for the last couple of months. We started out selling books that were in my collection that I didn't necessarily want. We were completing runs for people, filling major gaps in their runs of various titles, selling some big keys, some minor keys, and selling some, occasional odds and ends like t-shirting and comic book cleaning kits and all of that kind of stuff. And all of that effort has culminated in this Hulk 1, me holding this book and adding this amazing Silver Age comic to my collection. So I definitely want to thank all of you for being part of the journey. I hope that you enjoyed this series. I hope that maybe it inspired you in some way, shape, or form to maybe undertake a project like this of your own. The reality is that there is no one way to collect comics. There is also no one way to add really awesome comics to your collection. So my hope is that over the course of this series, I've been able to demonstrate different ways, different approaches that you might be able to leverage with some tweaks and modifications to lead you to adding your own key or grail to your comic book collection. As always, if you need to reach out to me, you can do that on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care. So at this point, you might be wondering a few things. You might be wondering how it is that I closed the dollar gap from my previous video to this video. You might also be wondering how much I actually spent on Incredible Hulk issue number 1. We are going to talk about both of those things right now. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I sold off some high dollar Star Wars books. Those 3 books brought in $3,300. When added to my previous total of roughly $9,000, that brought my grand total to $12,307. After completing those transactions, I went on to sell some additional items. I sold off some things to a guy in Sweden, and specifically I sold to him a dry cleaning kit, a Comics to Go box, a t-shirt, and also a really nice copy of Thundercats issue number 1, which collectively brought in $222. I went on to sell an additional dry cleaning kit to another person, and then I also sold off a mixture of books, specifically some Dazzler books, Nam, Machine Man, and also some She-Hulk books that brought in $161. Collectively, that actually brought in a grand total of $12,712. I went on to buy this copy of Incredible Hulk issue number 1 for $17,250, which is more than what I actually wanted to pay. If you remember, I wanted to spend somewhere around $15,000 on a 1.8 to, I think I was saying, a 2.5. I ended up with a 2.0 for more money. It is what it is, right? I do not regret spending this money in any way, shape, or form. But given where I finished with the total that I just mentioned, combined with the cost of the book, there was a delta of roughly $4,538. So the question is, how did I close that delta? I tapped into my resources. And what I mean by that is that in the previous video, I alluded to the fact that I was putting $5,000 on the table, and those funds came from other comic book related activities. I was holding to the side some additional cash reserves for some projects. I think that is literally what I said in the video. And one of those projects, I could not tell you at the time, was the launch of the Guide to Smart Comic Collecting. Now that that project is out the door, right? Now that we are printing it, we brought on advertisers, we are selling copies of it, that puts me in a position to give up those reserves that I had set aside to cover costs associated with that project. And all of the money that I have brought to bear for Hulk issue number 1 is all generated from comics. And it might come from cleaning kits or comics. It might come from variants that are sold on my website. It might be ad revenue from YouTube or sponsorship. But all of the funds literally come from comics. And this is, again, just an example of how I use the hobby to pay for itself. I literally work in comics to invest more money into comics. So that is how I closed the delta and ultimately was able to buy this copy of Hulk issue number 1.